who have done some good things. Like brother like LeBron, give him his props. He realized he hit the lottery. He gets millions of dollars for running up and down the court and throwing the ball in a hoop. And for him is what he realizes the opportunity that he had to move the ball forward. And we love talk about the John Lewis's, the Martin Luther King, etc. They weren't doing it though. They weren't doing it polite. They were doing it because they were serious about what they were doing, stood their part, the part they played in this grand scheme of things that has been going on long before we were around, is going to be going long after we're gone. And I've always hoped that more of us in our different organizations would recognize that we have more potential than most others to move the ball forward.
Is there anything better than a trip getting ready? Nope. For a long journey where our podcast released a new epi, searching for a fade feeling, new fixation. Giving this a subscribe is the same sensation. Started with the day ones, they gave us room to support the season. Could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here for a reason. Notification bells, text some friends, all to let you know. Check your Bluetooth, connect, talking with Donato.
Welcome in, everyone. Episode 73. That's Facts, with our guest, Ken Granderson. Okay, now, I used to live in Boston. When I was in Boston, all the brothers talked about this Ken Granderson. Now, that name, it makes you seem like, okay, all right, everybody's talking about Ken Granderson. Granderson, the root word grand, and this brother sounds like he's 8 feet tall. But they talked in reverence, and I have him here today, Ken Granderson, in the flesh. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing all right. That's so interesting because, I just lived my life. Putting pants on one leg at a time, got holes in the socks, whatever. You know what I'm wondering about you, Donato. I'm hoping that you wasn't hanging out all night and you're still wearing your J5 gear.
Hey, here's what I can tell you. I was out last night. I had a hall pass, and I was doing the thing, as in I was out well past midnight. But no, there was an outfit change. But I will tell you this. This is the first episode I've worn Nalia. I have not worn paraphernalia for anywhere else, but by joining my great fraternity, I met you. That's how I met you, and I thought that it was apropos. I thought this was a great day to finally pull it out. So for all the other newt that are out there, they'll probably be mad because I've had a few on, but you get it, Ken.
Hey, you know what? And if they're mad, you know what? It's because it was the day after J5. For those who aren't familiar, January 5th, our fraternity Founders Day.
Yes.
And So I'm glad. I'm glad that you chose Kappa. It's funny. A lot of folks that I know are in different Black Greek organizations. Most aren't. And I don't play favorites in terms of one of my best friends, classmates is a Q. Talked to him just a few days ago. Blase. It's like as long as you are trying to be about something and do something, boom, we good.
I agree. I remember some of my first influences. One was a Q. Another was an Alpha. My first roommate in college before I started down this path, he was an Alpha. In fact, because we had an apartment off campus, they said we could start a lot of the special time we're going to spend with him until he becomes a member at his place, because there's not a lot of people around. They got an apartment off in the cut, so I got to see a lot of alphas at my house. Let's put it that way. For me, Ken, the reason I joined, it was natural. But now that you mention it, I'd like to know, Ken Granderson, why did you choose Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated? It's a great place to start.
Sure. Sure. So let me start off saying, I'm originally from Brooklyn, in the neighborhood formerly known as Do or Die Bed-Stuy. Now it's the new and improved Bed-Stuy. I didn't know anything about Black fraternities growing up. Folks with blue collar, Daddy worked for the post office. Mother, church secretary at Methodist churches, got me to go to camp for cheap. So that worked out pretty well. And so it was my freshman year where, I saw, that was why my big introduction. I'm like, what is this? I kind of heard whatever. And by sophomore year, I looked at so I had some friends who were Qs, and I will say at least at that time, at that place, and those particular individuals were not necessarily Omega's best. Let's just say.
Understood.
They were not folks of the caliber of James Clyde or the brother Derek who runs LeBron's NAACP. You know what I'm saying? And hey, we have Kappas. Hakeem Jeffries, my congressman. We got Kappas in jail. It's all we're all people, and etc. So those guys, and and they were a bit too much into in my opinion, from standing far, more the Animal House school, not animals, the school days, like, I'm the big I am, and this and that and the other. Whereas the brothers, and there were actually just 3 brothers who were all graduating in Theta Iota chapter, MIT, Harvard, and Tufts. And, I believe they did an incredible job of striking a balance between things that were not really useful and crafting an experience that has served me to this day of, and we all know that the era of pledging is over, and societally it cannot come back, because even if you're talking about these days, even if you want to create I knew that we were going through an artificially created stressful environment that was intended to help us have a bonding experience similar to what you see in a lot of folks who go in the military or bond together through, stressful situations or whatever. I also knew that no matter what was going on, the reason that we were there was because they really thought we had something, and I developed one of the superpowers I developed during pledging was this ability. I need to give it a name. I tend to give names things. Was imagining my future self looking back on my past. So I imagine that we're in a situation where we're the butt of the joke, let's say, and and I said to myself, 40 years from now, we're going to be sitting around, drinking, beers and tea and laughing our butts off about this. And that realization, and I know psychologists would have some sort of term for it, but removing yourself from the present challenge and imagining that you're an observer, looking at it from afar, and then giving it a different context where you're like, yeah, this is actually funny if you're not us, that I found to be an incredibly powerful tool to get through challenges in life. So that was one of the things that I learned, through the pledge process. And, unfortunately today, you could tell somebody, we're not sure you can make it, and someone's going to break down and sue you for, pain and suffering. Kunovich and Lau is going to be right there and all. So unfortunately, for those who, in my belief, did their best to create a situation to help us move past our mentally imposed limitations and realize that we can do more. We are more capable. We are more powerful than we imagined. Unfortunately for those, there were too many folks who just found this to be a great opportunity to massage their ego and impress women.
Yes.
And, past was the past, present's the present. I'm looking towards the future, so I'm glad that our various organizations hit. My business partner is a Sigma, second best fraternity in the world, except when my Alpha friends are around. I'm glad that there are different venues. Earlier today, I was at an NAACP meeting, and folks talking about the legislative process, and the sister who runs it is a political powerhouse, explaining how they escalate things in the agenda. There's folks. It doesn't matter what team you're on, or if you're on nobody's team. We all have an opportunity. I believe we all have an opportunity to bring something to the table, whether it's this ourselves or through our kids or through folks that we touch. And I'm just hopeful that our organizations, regardless of the processes, whatever, are still creating the mindset that values achievement and that values, looking past our own personal, comfort and benefit and all, because, I am someone who somewhere along the way, I realized that I had gotten luckier than many, probably most, not as lucky as a whole bunch of folks, but even like being born at the time and place, being able to go have the school background that I have that positioned me to be able to get into MIT, boom, boom. And I've always felt that part of the deal, part of the unspoken deal of the sacrifices of the people that we love to talk about next month in Black History Month. Quick question. What kind of car did Martin Luther King drive?
Oh, man,
How about this? What was Malcolm X's net worth?
Oh, sheesh.
You don't know because it doesn't freaking matter. That stuff is crap.
Yeah.
And I can't stand the way that so many of us have gotten into this thinking that those things are important. There isn't a single person, except maybe, some newer folks who in sports and entertainment, who have done some good things. Like a brother like LeBron, give him his props. He realized he hit the lottery. He gets to, millions of dollars for running up and down the court and throwing a ball in a hoop. Good for him. He isn't, but he realizes the opportunity that he has to move the ball forward. To and we love to talk about the John Lewis's, the Martin Luther Kings, etc. They weren't doing it for self. They weren't doing it for likes. They were doing it because they were serious about what they were doing, and understood their part, the part they played in this grand scheme of things that has been going on long before we were around. Is going to be going long after we're gone. And, and I've always hoped that more of us in our different organizations would recognize that we have more potential than most others to move the ball forward, and even, and no matter what our challenges are, this child's play. We're living, the dreams of our ancestors couldn't even imagine, but hopefully in the past recent years, from things that have gone on in politics, folks have realized that we're like, one or two presidential, elections away from folks wanting to bring back slavery. Like it's not over.
You're so right.
Yeah. So many of us, I think we have these delusions, especially of those of us, who are fortunate enough, to go to these, fancy smashy colleges and stuff like that. We think everything's okay, and it's all done and it's all good, and it's like it's good for us. But at the same time, I doubt that there's many people watching this that don't have, cousins who are don't know if they're gonna have a crib next month or how they're gonna eat, and it's like I don't know where we lost the idea that we do need to be our brothers and sisters keepers, especially those of us who have, whether it's from luck of the draw or our hard work, have created more choice in our lives, and more options that are not just bad or worse, but a good, better, best. So I really hope that, and I'm sorry, not sorry, but but I talk like this because I take this stuff seriously. I'm about to be 61, in a couple of weeks, and there's stuff that I've taken life very seriously for the past 30 years. I don't know if I got another 30. The way technology and stuff is going, and I think probably because of my diet, I've kept things working pretty well. But it's like I don't know why it seems like so many of us don't think that don't think that we have the power to make things better. Whether that is being involved with this or that. And I tell people, look, like I'm a tech guy. I sit behind a computer on my butt and make software. I'm not made like brothers, but small B brothers, like not a Kappa, but black brother, named Rodney Daly, who's up in Cambridge, who does Gang Peace. He works with brothers that are gangbang. I ain't made like that. But I realize in my lane, I can do something, and as long as I have breath, I intend to do what I can in my space, and try and support other folks who are, going places that maybe you and I don't want to go, right. And working with folks that maybe you and I don't want to work with.
Yeah. I always think that. I think that we all have a role to play. I try to symbolize it. I am a sports guy. Mm-hmm. I coach youth sports. I played some sports, played some semi-pro. But I always like to say it like this, Ken, we all are role players, ultimately. If you think about it, even Jordan was a role player. I think that we all have our roles. We all have our lanes. And this is where I use a guy up around your way. Bill Belichick says, just play your position.
Right.
Play your role. Just do your job.
Right.
And do it to the best that you can to help us all move forward. No man is a team. You'll never, even Jordan had help. He had Hall of Famers on his team. Right. Pippen, Hall of Famer, one of the greatest of all times. Dennis Rodman, one of the greatest of all time. Anyone that doesn't think that, well, we'll have another talk. That's a different talk. Don't worry, Ken. We won't make you sit in on that one when that gets into that sports talk. But to that point, you can't do it by yourself. Allen Iverson tried it. He took the 76ers to the NBA championship, and he ran into Shaq and Kobe. And Allen Iverson does not have a ring, and he certainly needed some more teammates, some different teammates to win that series. And those are the ways I like to describe it, because a lot of people are into sports and they could see it. So that's why.
So let me ask you this, right? Yeah. So I am not into sports, right? Why? Because growing up, I was like, the skinny, professor glasses, thick glasses. These are called ultra thins or whatever, and I no sports, talent at all. So yeah, so it goes past me, but. I do recognize that as in some ways, there's a certain overlap between like the pledging experience of training it can be used for training for leadership, giving folks discipline, putting folks through certain things. So here is my question, right? And it's not a criticism, because, I'm hard pressed to think of any field of human endeavor, that's a Kappa term for folks who aren't familiar, where we have realized the potential that we have. So my question is, something I've never figured out is, with all of this training to work together, blah, 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 in the world of sports, why does it seem to me, and maybe to a nerd like, I'm looking with nerd vision, why does it seem to me that a lot of that has not been translatable into, things that create tangible, positive forward motion? Sports, I don't know about now, but the interesting story, back in the 90s, one of my Sands, who's no longer with us, was trying to do some business with Cecil Fielder.
Oh yeah.
And I went out to Grosse Pointe Farms, and meet him and his wife. And at the time, I think there was a strike, whatever. I think around that time, it seemed like there was a turning point from Ken's, possibly, I just paid attention to it, so I thought it was relevant, but maybe things were going whatever. But around that time, seeing our mainstream society move away from what I would consider being authentic about what they did to it being all about getting paid. So for example, in the 80s, I was like, the number one DJ in the black college market up and down the, like New Haven to New Hampshire and this and that,
Yeah.
And the music, when I go out and I hear music, I'm almost always hearing stuff that I played. Why? Because it seems to me that back then folks were more about, I got something to say, or I want to make some music. I want people to have a good time. Throw your hands in the air, And at a certain point when it became commercialized, it's about, well, how can I sell records? How can I sell CDs? What's the new trend? And so that's a product that's made for that 3-month window.
Yep.
Hey, folks, that's why folks you don't hear most of that crap no more because it did its job. It sold, what anyway, I saw that happen with movies.
Yeah.
Another theoretical question. What did Wizard of Oz make at the box office? Don't know, don't care. No one ever asked that question. It used to be, is the movie good or does it suck?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what makes it the box office unless I got family, friends, or I got investment money in it. Otherwise, it don't matter. Or I own a theater. Other than that, it doesn't freaking matter. But it seems like that's all we pay attention to. Box office. And in sports, it's all the same thing. No more Jackie Robinson, not no more. Very few Jackie Robinsons, Muhammad Ali, even being I don't do sports. I'm believing that they're in it first for the love of the game.
Yeah.
And many times the sportsmanship and the character and all these great things, not how big a contract can I get.
Right.
That totally changes everything. The foundation, why you get started with something becomes the foundation of where you go with it and how you use it.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah.
So you were saying you were from Bed-Stuy. My dad is from there. So
okay.
Maybe I'll spare everyone from me saying, hey, did you know any Washingtons, my last name, to see if you figured it out. There were 15 of them though, Ken. So growing up, I was just kind of curious, did you live, and they weren't even the biggest on their block. There was a family next to them that had about, I want to say 20, maybe it was 18, but it certainly was more than 15. What was it like during your time growing up in Bed-Stuy?
Well, so here's the thing, right? So, New York is always, they say 8 million. They've been saying that for 50 years now. But if you got about 2 million folks per borough, that it's likely that unless you live near them or go to school or go to the same churches or you're in the same clubs, if you do sports, or rival high school, you didn't know them.
Yeah.
So you said Bed-Stuy. Do you remember what street?
I really don't. Of the things, because I know he went to a PS, so I couldn't even remember that number.
Mm-hmm.
Van Buren is like one of those things that kind of out.
Okay. Yeah. It was a few blocks up. Because I grew up on Stuyvesant between McDonough and Decatur, and Van Buren was about a half dozen or so in where the President Streets, are. So see, that would be far enough away. Because when I came outside, I generally would make a left turn and walk a few blocks to go to the A train Utica Avenue station. And I went and I was going to school. Growing up, it was pretty much, going to school. My folks were very involved with their church, and so it was like church activities or we're home.
Yeah,
I'm a nerd. I'm not out playing ball, stick ball, and putting the milk crate up on the thing. So.
Well, it certainly kept you safe from the stories my dad passed along. Ken, one of the things.
Hold up, but I will say this: so even though they call it do or die Bed-Stuy, there were some local gangs like the Hellcats and stuff, but it was pretty much like, don't hang out with certain folks. And they generally won't be static. Like you knew who the troublemakers were. Yeah. And you just, if you kept this for the most part, of course, every now and then, things happen. It seems to me that if there ever was honor among thieves, that has gone the way of the dinosaurs too. And, and you have folks, even in the other sides of our society that, in my opinion, used to just be on the fringe, but were mainstreamed in the 90s by the type of music that got me to decide I'm getting out of DJing because I refuse to play music that is celebrating the destruction of my people. Yeah. We can talk about that a whole nother whatever. Yeah. But I enjoyed that because I created experiences of joy and fun. And, well, mating rituals,
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm saying, yeah, because it's funny because for the black students, the whole party scene was like a mating ritual. But for the white students, it was like sit around and drink beer and get drunk. So interesting. But I digress. I digress all the time. But
No.
But yeah. But so you know what? So just to give like a data point or whatever, right? A little skinny, Coke bottle glass wearing kid, and I was taking the bus and the train from like third grade, okay, by myself. Yeah. The worst trouble I ever had was I think I got stuck up for my bus pass one time, and my glasses got broke. And the worst problem that ever happened was, and I don't even know if it was a personal thing or whatever, but someone had got shot in front of my house, in front of my uncle's store. One time, 17 years. Okay, so. Huh?
Not bad.
Well, in today's reality, and again, this was they called it do or die bedside. It's supposed to be such a tough neighborhood. In retrospect, compared to what I believe we have tolerated.
Yes.
At this point, it's sort of hard to put the genie back in the bottle. But I was one of a few people and didn't have as big a megaphone as folks who tried, to try and push back about the normalization, if not glorification, of self-destructive or predatory, to your neighbor's behaviors.
Yeah.
So, in our in music that became mainstreamed.
Yeah.
And media that became mainstream. Yeah.
So I always like to ask this question. It's senior year. Whether it's a brown bag lunch or your school lunch, but bear with me here. You got your tray. You just got the lunch cafeteria lady just put a schlop of something on your tray. You go out. What table are you sitting at, Ken? And who's at that table?
Well, okay. So I went to a small independent school called St. Anne's School, right? And when I say small, my graduating class was 70 students. 10 of us were black.
Wow.
The black students, we really hung together, so there was 6 girls, 4 boys, and so, so I was sitting, with the guys,
Yeah. When you were in high school, what were you known as? What did you get voted most likely?
No.
What were you?
It was well, I had started DJing. I started DJing when I was like 15, 16. And me and my best friend at the time, Cyril, we DJ'd the school dance, so I think it was either computer stuff, because this is late 70s. So the school got first they sent us to computer classes at like New York University or John Jay College, downtown Brooklyn, where St. Anne's is in Brooklyn Heights, near the waterfront. And so, so first they did that. Then they got micro, I used to say mini, but minis are actually bigger. A computer the size of like a 2-drawer file cabinet kind of thing.
Yeah.
And we pirated this Star Trek game that would print up on the teletypes and made it so that it played on the screen and you had little dots and stuff like that. And we were like, oh, this is so cool. So it was either computer or DJ.
Huh. So how did you get into, because this sounds like there was I think it was on Netflix, The Get Down. I know that was big. It seems like you're about to tell me the story, like you're living that out. If you ever get a chance to see it, it took the world by storm. I think it went international too, but it was certainly on their most viewed list. What got you into DJing? What's that story?
Oh, it's real easy. And you know what? Trust me, I have a story for everything, because I have thought through my past, my present, my opinions, perspectives, and beliefs. I'd say 99 out of 100. I can give you very specific, reasons and whatever. So very simple. So my dad was in the Korean War, and he repaired radios. And so, there was like a radio, so that got me interested in electronics. Around this time, the personal mid to late 70s, 75, 76, whatever, computers started, coming around. Like I remember there was this K-Pro computer, and there was a transition from sort of like word processors leading towards personal computers, Radio Shack, TRS-80, that sort of stuff, Commodore 64. We couldn't afford computers. So I got into stereo. It was electronics. That's simple. I had one turntable. My dude had another turntable. We would I get on the bus and with a crate of records and something. We would practice. I mean,
Wow.
yeah. So literally, it was. I wanted to do computers, but getting a computer was out of the question. So I ended up, getting into DJing. Connected with some folks who were in New York. Were trying to unionize it, which was really good because I learned between. It was called the American Guild of Disco Programmers. Between them and a brother named Mike Neal, who was a counselor at one of the Methodist churches that my mother was the cook at, he taught me how to blend and how to count beats and stuff. And so, by the time I got to, funny Guild of Disco Programmers thing, right?
Yeah.
This is mostly run by white folks, right? So Stash and Norma were a couple that had a company called Disco Van 2000. They didn't they were Saturday Night Fever type DJs, right? Okay. They had lights and stuff. They didn't do gigs for less than $1,000. I never saw $1,000, right? I'm like 15, 16-year-old black kid, right? They started giving me some hand-me-down gigs. Like I remember my dad rented a van and we did a bar mitzvah in New Jersey. They wanted a black DJ, right? And that was like $150 or $200, which is like the most I got. So it was like a win-win, right? Yeah. So those were some good folks. By the time I went to college, I wasn't really thinking about doing DJing. I was like, okay, new life, new phase in life. I gotta figure out this whole school thing. I'm away from home. I gotta, figure out how I'm gonna eat and stuff like that. And I remember going to a party, paying $3. I don't remember if it was in Chocolate City or may have been the dorm where most of the black students lived. I did not go to Chocolate City because I had the forethought to say, you know what, I want all these Negroes up in my business. Not that I had any business yet, but right. Yeah, I lived in a different dorm where there was like 6 out of 150 black folks. We had more room than anyone else. And, and I didn't have to worry about those except when I became well known as a DJ. There were issues like one time I'm coming back from the Chinese restaurant with my girlfriend from Simmons College, and there's 2 girls from Wellesley College sitting on the steps, because they want to talk to me about doing their party. That was not comfortable. Anyway.
Yeah, I can see that.
And for those who might not understand some of the context, New England area, lots of like 60 schools. And so, Wellesley and Simmons, both women's colleges had meow. Anyway.
Yeah. Plenty of people to meet. That's the way to sum it up. Plenty of people to meet.
Yeah. So I go to this party, I pay $3 and they're playing tapes.
Wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. I was like, excuse me? I don't think I'm the best DJ in the world, but I said, but I could do better than that. Talked to my folks, drove my speakers up, and next thing you know, I'm DJing. And so one of the things I believe in general, outside of like conversion experiences and catastrophes, I believe that most of us are pretty much the same person throughout most of our lives. So I've always been the same person in that I'm all in, I'm 100% at anything I do. So when I decided to do DJing, I was like, I want to be the best DJ ever. And so while other DJs would roll up in, a car, whatever, I ended up, getting a budget renovan. And I still have a picture of, I got speakers that from a wholesaler, not wholesaler, what was Sanford and Son?
Junk. Well, they were junk dealers, but
yeah. There's a nicer term for it though. More political.
What did he call it? Well, he thought it was an art dealer,
No. What I'm saying, not junk, but folks who buy out of date stuff and resell it. Anyway, back in the late '70s, before Charlton Heston had lost his mind, long before he lost his mind, he was doing movies like Earthquake, and they would say "Incense around," and so there were these speakers that were specially made for these movies to have like where you would vibrate. And the guy named Pierre Toutant, never met him, talked to him on the phone. I think it was in Cleveland. Had bought out all the sense around speakers, sold them. My MIT thesis was, as a bachelor's, you have to do a thesis, right? And it was designing an amplifier circuit that was more efficient and would be less heavy and not as hot. Those are the issues with big amplifiers. Heavy, like the gigantic iron kind of heat sinks to dissipate the heat. So I had a theory about doing a circuit that would be more efficient. And so my thesis advisor connected me to this guy who was like, yeah, he's a surplus dealer.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And I bought these 4 foot by 4 foot, 200-pound subwoofers. Two of these things, $200 a piece. Had them shipped on a truck. And those were my main bass bottoms. I had 6 bass bottoms, horns and tweeters. So I packed up a van, and because I wanted you, when you went to one of my gigs, Discotheque Productions was the name, and I still have pictures. By the way, I'm a pack rat or archivist, so I have pictures and stuff from back in the 80s or whatever. So I have a picture of me and my DJ partner sitting on the set. Because when you went to our gigs, we wanted you to walk in, and that's what you go.
So Ken, I normally do this behind the scenes, but I'm gonna do it to air. When I make this promotional reel, by the time people are listening to us, they have already seen it. Okay. I'm going to need some of these pictures. I generally ask for 5 to 10 photos. Okay. I'll take as many as you'll give for this, because
I'll give you a link to a Google Drive.
This is going to be awesome.
Take what you want, okay?
This promotional reel is going to be awesome. It's going to be cool. So,
and I'm just realizing, right? Here's a good Kappa story, right? Yeah. I don't know if you ever heard about the motorhome.
No.
Oh, wow. One of the brothers from '83, Derek Brooks, had this brilliant idea, and I'm saying in a good thing. So the Greek picnic down in Philadelphia. I think it was in August. A lot of the fraternities. And so I'm saying, obviously, not saying this for you, but
right.
We'll come down and get together. I think it's like second week in August or something. Whatever. Really nice. Vibe. Folks coming from, I'm guessing, probably just the Northeast and maybe South. And I don't know how much it would cost to, travel down there, get a hotel or whatever. Derek came up with the brilliant idea of, let's rent a motorhome.
Yeah.
6 of us rented a motorhome. It was like $830 for the weekend. They loaded it up, with food and drinks and this and that. And we had this even more brilliant idea. Let's try and make some money. So we tied some of my speakers to the top. There's a brother down in Philly who rented a hall. We tried to throw a party. The party did not turn out well, but we had so much fun. We're at the motorhome all day. Had the speakers out. I'm DJing and stuff. And I got a picture of us on the motorhome, but before we left town. So yeah, wow. I think it became a few sets of brothers did that in some subsequent years. I say to people, as a family outing or whatever, if you have someone who can drive a 27-foot vehicle, because I don't know if it was a special license Derek had, but I'm from New York, so I didn't even have a license at the time.
I'm sure.
There's no way I could imagine, trying to drive that sucker. But also fun story with that. I almost died. So, so we're DJing, DJing and whatever. Other brothers, handing out flyers and this and that and the other. And we're like, okay, starting to get dark. And, we wanted to drive over to where the party spot was going to be. Right. So Now we drove from Boston, Cambridge, Mass, down to Philadelphia. You could probably guess we wanted to make sure we secured things really well. Right. Yeah. So we're driving from one part of Philly to another. don't want to spend as much time securing them so well. So me and my son Joe, same brother who went out to meet Cecil Fielder with. We get up on the top of the thing, and so we had some sort of tied. But we're like, we're just gonna keep them, keep the speakers kind of in place, and just don't drive too fast, all right?
Nah. Famous last words.
Almost, right? Because so we start pulling off, and then, he's going slow, and he never really went super fast. When you're on top of a motorhome, and you're on top of the motorhome, so up there isn't much except these things called trees. And the branches start hitting you, and there's little twigs, and then they start getting thicker. And we're like,
oh, man.
Hey, Derek, can you pull over? It's hot. Derek has rolled the window up. Oh. They're playing music on the car radio. Like, Then we look ahead, and I know what Wile E. Coyote thinks. There is an archway.
Oh no!
And we were like, "Oh, I'm not gonna. I know you like to keep it clean, so I'm not gonna say what went through my mind, right?"
Yeah.
But we like laid down. There's two of the middle-sized speakers. This is what we brought down there. They're called Altec Voice of the Theaters, right? And so we laid across, and we're just like, well, hope Derek is as good a driver as we think he is. The fact that we're having this conversation is testament that he is as good a driver as we think he is.
Oh my God.
But that was a funny story that I don't even remember the last time I had a chance to tell that. Good times.
It's always like that. I'm just glad that the Roadrunner didn't paint that tunnel. That was the other part that could have happened. So I want to know. All right, I want two different times. When you were in high school, what was your go-to song that you had to play? If you was rocking a party, you knew, this one is just gonna kill. What was that one in high school that you can remember?
Apache.
Oh, yes.
The original one is by the Apache Band. Sugar Hill Gang, sampled it and built a record on top of it later. It was either that or Freedom. By Freedom, Get Up and Dance. The one that goes do 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 do. And we would just play the breaks. I mean, there was a few. There's some Andy's Bra, Super Sperm, which besides the name, it's just a percussion break, But I think Apache was probably the number one.
Now, once you got to college and you started party rocking there, that means a few years have passed.
Rob Bass.
Oh, really? That was the one.
Well, I'm gonna say it depended on what year you're talking about. That's the thing. You know what I'm saying? But that was the first one that came to mind.
Yeah.
Over time, there was different songs, but I know that was a guarantee. You know what I'm saying? And,
yes. Man, I still squirm if that song came on right now. I love that song.
Right. See, and that speaks to the kind of music I like to play. When you think about it, you feel good.
Yep.
You have nothing but positive vibes.
Yep.
You're not angry. You don't want to go hurt nobody. No. You're not even commiserating on from a justifiable perspective on how challenging your life is.
Yep.
There's time and a place for that. You're not being politically, aware and thinking about struggle. Time and place. I believe, for many, many different things. But that was the kind of music that I really, really enjoyed playing because it created experiences of communal happiness.
So when I met brothers in 2007, our fraternity brothers, it's like they could see the future. They were all talking about you and where you were headed and the momentum behind you. And then I actually had a gentleman on just a few episodes ago, and then even he spoke about where you're at. So I'd like to talk about where you're at. We named this That's Facts. And I want to know what's the long road, but how did you get to Black Facts? What I would love to know how it came about, what you went through, and how we got here.
Oh yeah. Trust me, yeah. Actually, besides stuff on the wall and there's books and things like that. Again, I'm the pack rat. I keep everything. So yes. So I told you that I had the love of computers. Couldn't afford it, so I did did DJing or whatever. But I still had the love for computer. Oh, another fun thing. I show up at MIT, right?
Yeah.
And I was thinking of going computer science
Mm-hmm.
until I saw many of the computer science students, look like they were one step away from being like the Unabomber, living off the grid or whatever. And I'm like, I'm 17 years old. I'm away from home. I've only had like a couple of girlfriends. There's girls here. I don't think I want to be like those guys.
No.
I had enough wisdom to realize to be able. I'll never say I'm a prophet. I don't think anyone does a good job other than every now and then dumb luck telling the future. But the signs were there enough. It was like I know what lies ahead on the path they're on, and it's not how I want to spend my late teens and early 20s.
It looked like a lonely train is where they were headed.
Exactly. Well, no. They have their Dungeons and Dragons friends.
Yeah, that's true.
But it's different.
Yeah, very different.
Except it seems to me over time, there's a lot of women who've gotten into some of these things. So it's different now. In addition to just looking at some of the, but I would never name any particular names, but women at MIT back in 1980 don't look like they look today.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving right along.
People are pretty diverse nowadays. They come in a lot of different shapes, sizes, and packages.
Yes. So so what happened was after graduating, I was doing hardware. So because I did electrical engineering instead of computer science. So it tied in with the DJing. I'm doing circuits, making stuff. My first job was working with a company that did a blood analysis device for diabetics that was pen size, whereas before then they were like these big boxy things.
Yeah.
And we designed the circuits for that and stuff like that. And so another interesting story. This one will probably rub some folks the wrong way, but I don't really care. Was that because I realized in retrospect that I had set some of the foundations for my decisions later on, including Black Facts. Senior year, well, and I say to people, I was DJing a lot, I was also an early adopter, of participant in the cannabis industry, and so I say, to folks, I'm probably the only person you'll ever meet who said that they partied through MIT, and I had so much fun, I stayed an extra year.
I mean, if you can do something right, you got to keep doing it.
There you go. Right. So in my second senior year, right?
The first one needed to be done over. I mean,
there you go. All right. So my second senior year, I'm interviewing. And after interviewing for the second company that was a defense company, I made a decision that I wasn't going to interview for defense companies anymore, because I said that I never wanted to create something that I might want to wake up one morning and hear that something that I created had killed 1,000 people.
Yeah.
And so I didn't realize it then, but I set myself on a path where I've been committed to using technology for the good of humanity in writ large, and Black people in particular, based on certain experiences I had several years later. So I wanted to I'm doing the job as doing the hardware stuff. I wanted to get back in computers. I got a personal computer by JVC, the same people who do the boom boxes, Victor Corporation, same company that made IBM clones, and helping my same brother who went out to Cecil Field, whatever. He was trying to do a Black Business Directory, helped him set things up on desktop publishing, 1990. Had him using PageMaker on Windows. Half the price of what it costs on Macs, actually. And so I got into doing more computer related stuff. Started getting jobs, doing temp jobs with Kelly Temps. Going to offices and helping them with spreadsheets and things like that. Ended up working with Phoenix Technologies. They were the first folks who legally cloned or commercialized the IBM compatible business, right? Wow. So back in the 80s, if you had an IBM compatible PC, the first thing when you turned it on, we were like, copyright Phoenix, And during my time there, I was doing software testing, okay?
Yeah.
I got the programming bug again from back in high school, and I said to them, hey, if I take some classes in programming, will you do tuition reimbursement? And they said, well, the only programmers who really have are programmers who program the chips or the video drivers, because their business was, if you were Compaq, Hewlett Packard, companies that sold IBM compatible PCs, you would get Phoenix to make sure they worked with IBM DOS and then Windows and stuff like that. And so, they said, hey, you know what? No, you're not a programmer. So, you're doing QA, so thanks, but no thanks. I said, okay. I said, if I teach myself and I start creating things on my own, can we amend our employment agreement so you have no intellectual property rights to anything I make? And they said, well, the only programmers we have are folks who are doing the chips and this. Long story short, they said, sure. So we amended our contract so that they didn't know anything. I bought 2 books that I still had the receipt, taught myself how to program through programs like, helping my boy with his desktop publishing business. Yeah. Fonts used to not only not be free, but cost a few $100 a piece. Yeah, exactly. And so, a brother from another mother, shout out to my boy Craig. He when I introduced him to one of our brothers who here in New York is like a deputy commissioner of one of the agencies. I said, Craig is like the coolest white guy I know. I said that with Craig present. That's my dude, right? Craig was working at a font company and hooked us up with these cartridges that would cost like $300 a piece that you would have to plug into your Hewlett Packard LaserJet 2, and you could get Courier 10 point. Oh, you want to do 12 point? You have to put a different cartridge in there, right? Yes. And so there was another technology of fonts that was moved on by Adobe, PostScript. One font, you could have all sizes, right? Mm-hmm. There was a company, CorelDRAW, that's still around, that had a way to convert bitstream fonts, one font size. You either got bold, italic, normal, bold, different cartridges, right? That you could convert them with their program, right? That's game changer. There was a bug in their program that wouldn't make the files correctly in a certain way. I figured out how to tweak the file and put out a program that I asked people, hey, give me $5 if you want this. Not really, people didn't give me $5, but another great guy, used to be a rock and roll star back in Germany in the 50s, Michael Werner Newman. He had a product called World Fonts. I still have the box for that here. World Fonts, what it let you do is, and this is something that would happen, imagine you are in Europe, okay? We've all bought products that might have like English and Spanish, right? They would have documents that might be in English, French, and German. They're right next to each other, right? And well, how do those documents get made? Do you have 3 different people? Do you hire 3 different people? No, they hire one person who types them. But unless you type in different languages, you don't know that the keyboard layouts are different. Characters are swapped around. So Mike had fonts for these special characters, but the keyboard, he didn't have a solution for the keyboards. He reaches out to me. I end up writing him a program that lets you do a hotkey. Boom! Now we're typing with the French keyboard. Now we're typing with the German keyboard. That helped him sell his product to these nice Mormon guys, and I say it that way because this is like the late 80s, early 90s, maybe. They were just letting black folks be bishops, in the Mormon church.
Yes.
But they recognized and appreciated hustle.
Yeah.
Right? So I got introduced to them. They ended up buying and paying me royalties on my second popular shareware program called No DOS. When in the transition from Microsoft DOS to Windows, folks basically using Windows to switch between WordPerfect, Lotus 123, and maybe DBase, which were DOS programs. Instead of having to run one program, close it down, open up a new program.
Yeah.
In Windows 3.0, the icon looked the same. When you switched out, you would have this gray DOS icon, right? And so I actually have the box for it, sitting like right behind me, where you can see the box at the DataCal company was the folks, the company. They sold keyboard protectors and accessories, right? So they sold my product, and paid me a royalty, got it out to more people than it could have before. But Mike helped hook that up. So I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. And they were paying me like $1,500 a month to work remotely, to do other stuff for them.
Oh.
Along the way, I also, you will love this one. To teach myself how to do Windows desktop programs, I created something. I ran into this page from a white guy, believe it or not, down in Florida that had a long list of Yo Mama jokes. And I created a Yo Mama jokes program. It works to this day in Windows 95 compatibility mode, where it pops up and it says, "Hi, it's 7:06 p.m. and January 6th, and let me say something about your mama." And it'll have a mama joke, and you can click the new snap button, and it has another snap. I had a configuration file where you could filter out jokes that were more offensive, like the "Your mama's so black" jokes, "Your mama's so fat" jokes, so promiscuous jokes, etc. So I love that project because this was an experience of doing something that was fun.
Yeah.
Also, to a certain extent, even though, despite where I got the jokes from, it was something I related to, because when I used to go to camp, sometimes it was black boys and these suburban white girls, and these girls were like mortified that we would stay up all night doing Your Mama jokes. Yeah. We weren't mad at each other because it was a competition. Anyway, let me get back on track. So my third shareware, this is back in the before times when people paid money for software. You could put programs out there and say, look, if you like what I have, give me $20. And it worked especially well if your program was something that started when Windows started up. And then it's called Nagware. So my group icon program did the exact same thing I did with No DOS, which was just customize. Oh, I can see what program I'm running. That feature was built into Windows 3.1, having a different thing. And no, they didn't steal my idea. It was obvious. They just didn't get around to it. I got to it before them. So in the quote program manager, you might have your accounting programs, your word processing, all the groups look the same. So the group icon program lets you have a different picture for the different groups. That program got into books, of this book called Windows Gizmos that was sold in CompUSA stores. And, I ended up selling like 2,000 of those for $20 a piece. My salary at the time was $43,000. So I quit my job. And as you might be interested in showing in some of your stuff, so I didn't even know the guy, Brian Livingston, who put the book in there, right? This was free advertising. So it was like, great, this is the best thing that ever happened, right? I had created a help file that showed you how to use the program. And at the end of the help file, I got black and blackety black. So I have a thank you page about folks that I wanted to thank, and family, my brother, because he introduced me to Napoleon Hill's works that totally transformed my mindset about what I wanted to do and the impact that I could make in this world. So I always thank him. And I said Kappa Alpha Psi for the yo, and I said, yeah, thanks, for Martin Luther King for their work, for the work they do. But I started with Martin Luther King, I escalated to Malcolm X and Elijah Muhammad and said, yo, Farrakhan, thank you for helping me see what's going on with our brothers.
Yes.
That was printed verbatim in this book that was in CompUSA stores throughout the country.
What?
So I'm sitting in you are either were or are still in Boston, so you'll know where I am. I'm on Mass Ave in a basement apartment, a block from Boston City Hospital, and and the methadone clinic and whatever. And I'm selling software in a dozen. It's 1992. I'm selling software in like a dozen countries, including South Africa. I had one time this woman called me from Italy. It's long distance, right?
Yeah.
Because they were having trouble with the registration code that I sent them. She spoke English. Her boyfriend, who was with her, didn't, but he was on the computer, And so to me, I'm like, okay, this is new. Because I don't have contacts. I don't have money. I just have my smarts and this is how I'm spending Saturday night instead of going to the club.
Yeah.
I think this computer thing is worth us paying attention to. So I had started my company. My first company, when I first started, it was called New World Software. I changed the name to Inner City Software. I don't know, depending on the camera angle, I don't know if you can see, you probably can't see the T-shirt I have back there. And, urban theme, with a slogan, brains in the hood. And I went on a mission to demonstrate that Black folks were totally on par, with other folks when it came to this technology thing, because I realized that it works the same no matter who's behind it.
Yeah. I
ended up spending the next decade with Inner City Software doing things like in 95, I did my first historical, it was the predecessor to Black Facts, right? Where I took a book on Boston's Black history. I've negotiated with the Boston Public Library, 350 years of Black history. They let me reproduce it to create a, quote, multimedia CD-ROM, like Microsoft Encarta. It actually used the same technology as Encarta. And I was trying to get it in the school systems so that Black kids from 1995, when they were introduced to this thing called the computer, that they would see themselves reflected. So I'm obviously not I can't see the future, but I do believe that the future is built by the things we do. And I'm always trying to influence the future. And so I had hoped, and I say hope because after 2 years of meeting with different folks, someone fessed up, and because my deal was, you'll have access to whatever you want because I have news stories and stuff like that. And you'll see the deal we were offering was that we will give the software for free to anyone, any school that had hardware that ran it. Are you still in Boston?
No, I'm in Austin, Texas now.
Oh, that's right. You're in Austin. Okay, rats. Because I just realized that the person who said that was, former roommate and friend Ron Mitchell, who bought the Bay State banner a year ago.
Oh.
Yeah. This is the 95. Yeah. So he actually is in the news piece saying, that we would give it to any schools.
Yeah.
They were going to cost me $450 a piece from this pressing plant in Woburn. I ain't got, bro, man ain't got a bunch of money. So I'm not gonna go make 1,000 of these things and then, So somebody finally fessed up that the Black schools, none of them had the technology. They didn't have the hardware to do it. Yeah. Anyway, undeterred, in 96, I got together with about a half dozen other Black technology folks, and we launched a project we called Inner City Access, which was at roxbury.com. We made sure we talked with the libraries. Every Boston Public Library had free internet access, right? So we were like, let's put our communities on the internet, this thing called the internet. I'm living in Dorchester. I'm showing up at community meetings with printouts from the webpage of Stormfront, the racist organization, White Pride Worldwide. There's this thing called the internet. I've learned that it works the same for everybody. This is what these guys are doing with it. You heard of this guy, David Duke? They say he has a mailing list of 20,000 with this thing called email that doesn't cost you 35 cents a thing. Nope. maybe we might want to use this thing. So that was my whole spiel. So we did basically static listings of organizations and this and that and the other. 97 put the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation online, and that was then the year that I did Black Facts. How did I end up doing Black Facts? Well, there was a list of Black history facts that was being circulated around. And when I was doing, in order to do the Roxbury project, I wanted to buy a web page editor, Front Page. Okay? Yeah. Front Page was created by a North Cambridge company called Vermeer Technologies. Software used to cost a bunch of money. I mentioned WordPerfect, whatever. $500 was the going price for one copy. Vermeer Front Page was going to be $500, right? I plan to get in touch with them to try to figure out if I can negotiate anything. News comes out, Microsoft's going to buy Vermeer for $160 million. So I reach out to the Microsoft Community Affairs folks. I let them know what I'm doing. They let me get Front Page for $250 because I was doing the Roxbury project.
Yeah.
So I got Front Page. I'm using Front Page in 1995. By the time everything went through, whatever, it was around 97 by the time it started really picking up.
Yeah.
On the peer support groups telling everyone how to use Front Page. Someone in Microsoft found out, and they made me what is called a most valued professional.
Oh.
I'm probably the first Black MVP because this is in 97. That gave me access to all of Microsoft's servers, software, the database servers, Office, all that kind of stuff, and so I was like, let me teach myself how to do database-powered websites. There's this list of Black history facts being circulated on America Online and CompuServe. Let me use that to build to practice. That's how I started Black Facts.
Wow.
So it's as far as I know, it's the first Black history search engine. And fun fact for anyone who was around back then, Netscape was like the big web browser, and their logo was, or the slogan was Netscape now. So that's this is from 97. This is our new button, Black Facts Matter.
Oh
yeah. So I viewed, and then there was other community projects I did. I did Roxbury.com in a bigger sense. I put Boston's Empowerment Zone online. So, use the picture where I'm shaking hands with Al Gore, because that's when I demoed the Boston's Empowerment Zone site to him. And so there's this new thing called the internet. I viewed Black history as a, quote, gateway drug, because even by then, I'd lived long enough to realize that as a people, we spend too much, in my personal opinion, my not so humble opinion, and I say not so humble because I'll say it this way. I believe that if we change our priorities, we could solve all of our problems in our communities. I believe that the solution to our problems has been within our grasp, at least since the age of the computer age. And I was concerned that we would not pay attention to this and we would let it go past us. So I figured, well, maybe folks are getting America Online accounts. If they know that there's something about us there, maybe they'll pay attention. I don't know how well it turned out or not, but I do know that, unlike many Black websites that are talked about in this book, you'll see this green cover called Black Software, who came and went, unlike folks like, Skip Gates, Africana.com, that started after Black Facts, and now don't go there. It's like either like a Chinese wares or porn site. While they've come and gone, we're still standing. Yeah. And with over 1 million Black historical and news, we pull global Black news from around the world every day. I believe we're the largest Black source of Black history, online Black history content. We're also one of the only examples of software that is 100%, I say, conceived, coded, controlled, and owned by Black folks.
Yes.
And but yeah, and Black Facts is free to the public. We give it away. If you go there, we are as far as I know, the single source of getting a Black History video for every day of the year.
Wow.
And as a business, this is Black Facts for Schools. This is our videos. This is an educational product where we're actually using generative AI to create classroom exercises, quiz questions and answers, teacher talking points, and more to empower teachers who might know Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, but they don't know, Katherine Johnson. They don't know Kizmika Corbett. They don't know most of the 1,000 videos that we've created in 12 different series, from series on Black heroes in general, Black women, Native American folks, Black LGBTQ folks, Caribbean revolutionaries, Afro-Latino folks. We're starting an Asian American because we're trying to be, hit all the diverse groups. And so, what we're looking to do is empower educators who they don't have to be experts, to engage the students. The videos tend to be short, designed for, Generation Alpha and Gen Z and Gen Alpha who get their stuff by social media. How many folks are going to be reading textbooks, and so we're in 12 states, about 40 schools in 12 states. We're trying to get into more states. If you know any educators who think that, as the shirt says, that Black Facts matter, please get them in touch, get in touch with them. We got demo accounts, we price it so that it is less than what most large schools will spend on a school outing. We give access to the entire faculty. We're looking for folks who know the education space and can be affiliates and stuff. So, we're just trying to stay in our lane of creating the tech, because we're not educators. We're not, we're tech guys. I'm really the tech guy. My business partner Dale is more the business guy. So my whole thing is always using technology to empower us. So for example, like as we're in 2024, when I went to the NAACP meeting, I was trying to show some folks a couple of civic engagement applications that I'm building that leverage AI and speech recognition. I've waited 30 years almost. No, not 30. 97. This is 97 with Dragon, naturally speaking. I've waited that long for voice recognition to be good enough. It's become my go-to. That is my default for how I do certain things, right? So Voting While Black is an application that lets you look up your voting records, but more importantly, plan out and manage voter engagement campaigns, like voter registration drives, door knocking campaigns, etc. This is just a personal project. I'm trying to see if I can find folks who can help me, get some funding for it or whatever. And then the other one called civicchat.nyc. It's New York City's focus right now because I'm just putting a box around who I get information about. But the idea is to be able to explain, either by picking elected offices and the language of your choice, either picking it and it'll print and read it to you, or the AI stuff that I'm going to build in will let you ask a question. So what does the city councilor do? Or like, hey, like there's folks down the street that's, having loud parties. Who should I call? That sort of stuff. So I'm doing these, as primarily as demonstrations. I think, but hopefully, if I connect with the right people, they can make an impact. That's always the goal, but also as demonstrations of creating technology that's for Black folks that is not entry level, me too, let's teach the kids to code. That's nice, but I don't know if that has moved the needle on anything, anytime, anywhere, except for those kids, which is good. But if folks doing that, I create, websites that get millions of visitors. A decade ago, because thanks to my senior programmer at Inner City Software, who was a sister from St. Lucia, Diana, who connected me with the government, a decade after I shut Inner City Software down in 2004. The industry, had changed, and I never was able to kind of parlay doing the community stuff to get into the business world.
Yeah.
I won't say that. I used to say that, Black folks in Boston were just terrible at networking, whatever. I've actually started asking Boston for my forgiveness because systemically we're terrible, in my opinion. We are horrible. What I mean is what we don't do is what I do, is when I find out about what you do, I get on LinkedIn and I make a three-way, introduction. And people say, oh, thank you. I was like, no, don't thank me. To quote Chris Rock from his classic, was it Feel the Pain or whatever? He was talking about Black folks and other people. Certain other people want to get credit for stuff that you're supposed to do. I'm like, man, he's like, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
In my mind, if you have access to opportunities, funds, whatever, and someone who could use that, and you don't take action to make that happen, in my not so humble opinion, you're making a mockery of the folks that you're going to celebrate next year.
Yes.
Next month, excuse me. It's like, it does not cost you money to make a referral. Now, you might want to do your due diligence to make sure that they know what they.
Yeah.
And that's why anything that I talk about, I tell people sometimes, some people may think I talk a lot of crap, but I have links. I have, you can go to KenGranderson.com. You can see 30 years articles, news stories, whatever, because I will back up anything that I say. And, and so, you want to do your due diligence, because if you're the only Black person in that bank or, high position that you got to, and your frat brother, leans on the shield and you hook him up, and it turns out that he was, a total loser. Now you're the last Black person that's ever going to get that role. I mean, that's real, right? And so
it is.
But at the same time, I believe that if we don't, I'll do it. I'll say this in a fraternal way, because achievement in every field of human endeavor, right?
Yes.
That's what we say, talk about. In my opinion, achievement always exists outside of your comfort zone. As a sports person, I'm sure you can relate to it, right? Running, say you're a track, whatever your best is might be better than anyone else. But if that's what you do, just rolling out the bed, that's not achievement anymore. Achievement is only when you're pushing yourself past your limits. And at least from my read of history, achievement has always requires sacrifice. So if you're not sacrificing, if you're just chilling, living the life, you ain't achieving, bro. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You gave up on that achievement thing, and I'm not mad at you. Maybe you worked hard and you need to, let's not, normalize, never getting a rest. Because that too, there's what I call like the double black tax, where sometimes, like, oh, I got a Black business. Oh yeah, give me the hookup. I'm like, yo, bro, I'm trying to stay alive here.
Thank you.
So it's like, I don't understand. These are things that just don't compute. In my simple mind around some of these things, it's like what's the point? What's the point of going, to these fancy schools and getting these degrees and joining these organizations if we're not going to use them to help, grow, maintain power, influence, and make things better for the folks who come after us? What is the point?
That point has been missed. Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah, I'm saying that if they don't, the point's been missed.
Yeah.
They didn't get that memo to help others, to extend that hand and pull a brother.
Exactly. Yeah. I have a document I call my personal manifesto that, back in '99, there were some folks who were pleased enough with the work I was doing that right behind my head, that big thing on the wall is an honorary doctorate degree. Salem State, and I gave a short address. I have it as a document. I showed up wearing the dashiki. I got the picture there. They were in the room. My mother was there. My girlfriend at the time, my brother. Were there. There might have been a few other black. It was mostly, so I was like, I'm showing up for these white people wearing dashiki, and and I don't remember the whole. It's a short piece, right? But I call it my personal manifesto, and I said, that and I actually said to them, hey, if you haven't realized I'm a black man, and some of us think we gotten past that, but sooner or later. But anyway, I said that I recognize that things I take for granted were paid for by the blood and sweat of folks who come before me. That I'm just a cog in a chain, a link in a chain that stretches out into eternity in both directions.
Yeah.
And I said, I benefited greatly from it, and I have no right to break it.
Yeah.
And my concern is that too many of us have broken that chain, and that's why a lot of the brothers and sisters who are living on the edge hate us.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. They see any compatibility, no connectivity, and the only thing they think is, oh, you got all that money and there is no attachment. Like you're in a whole nother universe.
Right. A whole it is, you know what? And the crazy thing is that so I live an interesting reality where I've got one foot in the the world of the Harvard, MIT alums, and another foot because the longer I stayed in Boston, the more my social circle was native Black Bostonians. So my other foot is living folks who are on public assistance and subsidized housing, and thankfully, I think a lot of things go back and forth. So I don't really know many folks who are struggling with substance addiction anymore. They've come, they've made it,
made it through.
They made it through, and at least from my read on things, folks that I know pretty much operate the same way. In terms of most folks are, and it's not criticism, just this is what it is. Most folks, I think, 95% of what they think about is what's in it for me, or they take care of themselves, or and all. It just looks different depending on whether you have a whole lot of resources or you have nothing.
Yeah,
and but folks do the same sort of things. From my perspective, they have the same kind of mentality, and they do things that make perfect sense to them based on who they are, where they've come from, where they're trying to go. Whether it's long term or they're just hoping that they make it through next month.
Yeah.
And so those realizations have helped me stand outside of judgment for folks, even when they do things that I wish they didn't do, because I ask myself the question, can I honestly say that if I lived their life that I would make better choices?
Yeah.
Most of the time, I can't say that.
Yeah. When you put yourself in those shoes,
and
you look,
and as much as I run into people, who are working here and there, and they're complaining about their jobs, the folks that I know who are on the lower edge of the spectrum, of the economic thing, I can't even imagine how they deal with the constant stresses and things like that. And I have to say, I'm concerned, about this disconnect, within our communities where, because I'm in some enough, and I'm not talking about fraternity now. I'm in some middle class online groups where folks are really talking down about folks who have a lifestyle they don't approve of and stuff. And I'm just like, if your choices are bad or worse, bad looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And I'm concerned because, I don't. Maybe I'm hanging out in the wrong places. I hope I am. But I don't run into that many people who are saying, you know what, we have the power. We being, different people, we have different amounts of, power to make change and to stop complaining and talking about what they or
Yep.
these external forces or the system, yeah, we all know these things happened. The things that are happening, and they're gonna keep happening. With some people, whatever, you can't control a lot of that. What you can control is what you do with the next 24 hours you have. And so I try and stay in that mindset, and and try and make sure that I'm doing what I can to push things forward. Is it the right thing? No, probably not. But it's the best I based on what I know up to this point, is the best idea I got.
No, I'm in agreement. I refer to that quite often on my weekly radio show. I like to simply state that if you're complaining, then stop doing that. Stop spitting into the wind and organize. It ain't that hard. At some point you got to turn these words into action, and you never know along the way who you might motivate, what momentum you may collect, but you certainly aren't doing anything now. Because last I looked, some of these city council meetings, some of these town halls, they're free to get into. They're open. And if you haven't even been to one, if you're not even trying to go about and be heard, two, by those that you're railing against and those you need to rally, I mean, what you doing, man? What you doing? You're a barbershop politician.
Right. Well, you know what? It's funny. I share with people, I usually see at least three sides, of any kind of thing, right? As well as I'm a heretic in all ways, so there isn't any kind of dogma or conventional wisdom or whatever that I accept as, truth. With that, I question everything and whatever. So what's interesting is I'm at the NAACP meeting, and I'm really impressed by what the Brooklyn NAACP does, their level of organization. I might have a slightly different opinion than what you said. Organize, it's not hard. I think organizing is hard. What's not hard, I think, is deciding that you're not going to try to be, the big man and in charge of things, but you're going to find some folks who are doing it better than you are.
Yes.
And ride with them for a little while.
So to your point, so what I do, I live in Austin, Texas, and I'm always hearing from other Austinites about how gentrification is hitting them so hard, and they're not handling it here well. I've lived in other places. I've lived in Los Angeles. I claim to be from Virginia, and Churchill is not what it used to be. And those big 3- and 4-story houses that used to be the rough part, the black part, are now being bought out. And you know where I'm going. You're from Brooklyn. Brooklyn.
No. That's block is 50% white now. Yeah.
So what I say is there has to be an opportunity for you to first talk amongst your cousins. Let's save grandma's house. If we don't want to lose it, we could at least collect our money and pay those taxes. Clearly she needs help because we're not doing nothing. But the second thing is, here's what you got to do for the people that live here in Austin. You're not the first city. Contact those brothers and sisters that lived in or currently live in Brooklyn and are holding on with the white knuckle ride as it is, and study what they have done, what they are doing. And for instance, if there are some families that are still in houses that their grandmama and that grandmama's mas had, find out what they're doing and how they're doing it and learn from that, and then use that experience in your fight. Because again, you're not the first ones. I say this live on my radio show. I do have to get into it almost weekly. But yeah, no, to your point.
No. Please keep saying that, because, one of the articles that I have is from the Boston Globe said now the gentrifiers are black, because so 2000, no, I liked it because back then I was trying to encourage middle-class black folks, buy property in Roxbury. If you got these triple deckers and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Or even more, what I'm about to say is even better for folks who live there, who are from there, right? If you've got 3 units, right? Keep mom and dad in one, you move into another, rent out the top to white folks, top dollar.
Yes.
At some point, mom and dad aren't going to be here. Fix up that other unit. Now you got 2 market rate things, because gentrification is a bad thing if you're a renter, if you are an owner, that is generational wealth.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yeah. We had one of those 4-story houses on 23rd Street in Churchill, and I can remember I went off to the Army. My parents had it. I came back, they didn't, and I drove through that neighborhood, and I started seeing the changes, and I said, "You got to be kidding me! You mean the house that we just had is now 4 times as much?"
Yeah.
Look at it. They. Oh my God! You got to be kidding me! And we lost it. Now, my dad wasn't great with money. An amazing dad, by the way. But he probably didn't even know. He saw things were stacking up, and he was like, "Man, I'm gonna have to get out of this."
Hey, bro. My dad worked for the post office, right? At one point, I think he had about 4 or 5 houses. Sold them. Some of that might have been to help pay for my tuition. But yeah, man. I mean, so I think what continues to me to be challenging is that this, in addition to all of the things that we can't change, it seems like we just don't have the wisdom to know the difference, that there's so much we can change.
Yes,
and all that it takes is thinking a little differently and acting a little differently, and and in many cases finding some folks who are doing a better job at something you want to see done, and just help them.
That's it.
That's it. It's like, why is this some sort of secret formula that only cappers from the 80s can get, or whatever? Like, to me, this is like so obvious.
Yes, it is.
I don't know if you have thoughts on like kind of like what is going on, with our mentalities that we don't realize these things and then act on them, even at baby steps, man.
Yeah. No, I think that the action is lacking there. When you look around, I feel like this is where I rail and sound like the old guy telling him to get off my lawn. But when you look at a generation that expects it to be easier,
yes,
that so much has been easy, and then this is my point. They have everything at their fingertips to find out historically how it was done, where you could find out, okay, yes, maybe you're not going to stand outside with a sign in your hand going back and forth like the old heads used to do, but there's something to understand. I like what you said, that achievement is made by you being uncomfortable.
Yeah, and outside of your comfort zone.
What is that thing that you can do now that may be uncomfortable? Like maybe you may have to get to a point where you are finding someone to champion. Just like you said, maybe I'm not the leader, but maybe I can get other people to rally together and we go find us a leader. Let's go find a champion.
Right.
Like the contract for hire. I'm thinking of the A team. Those people always needed help, right? But they found the A team, got the A team to come help them, and then let the A team go up against the big dogs.
Exactly.
And I think that's where it is okay, so it'll take a different type of action, but you got to be of action, because if you're just of complaining, I'm
telling you will never hear me complain about white folks, this and that and the other. I'm just as one of our sage philosophers said many years ago, ain't nobody got no time for that.
Nah. One thing I learned here, a lot of people who've lived here in Austin, Texas, longer than me have said that, to your point, back in the late 80s, early 90s, and I hope I'm nailing that right, they said there was a black gentleman who came through and started buying a lot of properties, and then he ended up selling them to a lot of big name companies that started to allow it to get to other hands outside of the black community of where they would have, these people that call in my radio show would like to have seen it. So I'm glad one or few people still call in to kind of remember. They say the gentleman's name, and most people that have been here a long time, they can look it up and they're like, oh yeah, that was a guy Yep, we're familiar. And yeah, oh yeah, he bought this and sold it, bought this and sold it.
And you know what? Yeah. There's always nuance to all these things. There's, the old saying, all skin folk ain't kinfolk, and
Oh yeah.
and you've got. I mean, to me, the distinction that I make always comes down to, is the extent of your concern and focus, is it just yourself and your tribe, or are you trying to make things better for people who you will never meet, who will never know you existed? Because that latter piece is why we have the freedoms that we have today.
Yes,
it's not just a black thing. It is a universal thing. The changes that improve things and stand are made by people who are not doing it for their own personal benefit.
Yes. So, Ken, I've got 3 points here. Kim, we're gonna have to come back and do a part 2.
we went way over time.
No. Oh, I know what I like to achieve. I've done shorter, depending on people's time frames, just to get them on. We haven't made the record yet. This is not the record in length. But what would your peers say to describe you? How would they say, like, hey, who's that? Oh, what do you know about Ken? What would they say to describe you?
I have no idea what people say about me when I'm not in the room. I hope that they say, maybe he's too serious, but he's consistent, sincere, reliable.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole visionary thing or whatever, I've gotten lucky with certain things, in terms of guessing certain things. A lot of folks will think that, of folks who may be deeper into something than they are, so I don't necessarily view that one way or another. Sure. I hope that folks have known me, to be a person who tries to do what I say I'm going to do, and and is trying to leave things a little better than I found them, and people. That's what I hope. Whether they say that, not in those words, maybe I'm a helpful person or I'm a resource. I don't know. I really don't know, man.
No. That's why I asked that question, and I'm giving away the formula to my podcast. But I like to ask it because unless you've been in some quality assurance survey where you get to see what your peers say about you, I always know what we perceive, what we think, and then what I want to know what you're trying to project, because most people will offer, well, this is what I'm trying to do, and that's what we want to know. That's
and you know what? Here's something that I think, and it probably, depending on who it is, it may be a positive or negative, but they probably think that I am very, very unconventional or unique. I'm not like other people. Almost nothing that I do, is what is me too, or what other folks do. I make my own jewelry. But things like cars. My last car was not expensive. It cost me $500, but it was unique. There's like 6 that I saw the whole time. Convertible. Just different thing. I'm very. Individuality is probably the strongest vibration that goes through my life, where I abhor sameness and fads and trends and being like everyone else. And I believe that we all have unique things about us that we can celebrate and nurture and grow. And if we find those things, especially we can figure out a way to integrate them into our lives in whatever roles we are, but especially if you can connect it to how you earn a living. There's a saying I heard in the 80s, and I've been living by it ever since, that work's only work when you'd rather be doing something else. The kind of stuff that I do, I love doing. It is my creative outlet. It is the closest thing I imagine to being a god, where I can dream up something and I can make it happen.
Yeah.
You know, and I listen to what other people talk about and what they give their attention and their energy to. And it strikes me, I believe that most people are in various levels of traps that they've fallen into in either playing certain roles that they didn't sign up for, but feel that as a responsible person they need to do. And maybe you can't get away from that, but even sometimes just changing your perspective. Okay, so get this, right? So I never had kids, right? Back in the 90s, I thought I was going to be able to build a business and give myself the freedom to not have to contend because I go all in, right?
Yeah.
I was concerned that if I went the family route, and I saw this with brothers, especially, come out of college, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, we're going to change the world. One after the other, it's like boom, family, trying to be a responsible black man, boom, 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 ain't mad at you, whatever. But those world-changing goals change to I got to take care of my family and make sure that the center of your universe changes as well as it should. If you are working to be a good parent and laying the foundation. So maybe your contribution is in the next generation, and that's fine.
Right.
It is, So sometimes it may just be the perspective. I didn't want to end up in the trap that I foresaw happening, where there would be a conflict between the family and the business.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that happened, I knew that the family would win, and it could create a situation where I would hold bitterness.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
I'm a motorcycle rider. I'm in a motorcycle club, and I quite often I see my buddy Ken. He's in a relationship. He was riding on two with us all the time, and then he sells his bike. They marry. He sells his bike.
Mm-hmm.
The relationship unfortunately fails. A few years later, what happens? He's right back on the bike, and then the first thing he says is, "I should have never given up the bike the first time." And that just always makes me say to myself, you got to tell her that you're not giving up the bike, or you will be resentful throughout that entire relationship. And those could be some of the underlying pieces of why it failed. But my current wife, I'm telling you, our third date, I showed up on my Harley to pick her up to go out on the date because I wanted her to know.
Right.
I had that foresight. I knew she needs to know about this bike game and that I don't want to give it up until I want to give it up.
And you know what? So maybe a friendly possible amendment to that. I think it's where you ended up. Is not that you say like, no, I'm not giving up my bike. Is that find someone who's cool with you having the bike.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of reasons that she didn't know. I showed up because if you think about it, Ken, that could have been the end of our time together anyway, because who wants to get helmet hair? Women would want to get helmet hair, so that's already one thing. Or a free spirit, because technically all motorcycle riders are kind of a free spirit.
I'll go with it.
Whatever, and throws it on and is like, I'll fix it up when I get done. I mean, there's been plenty of time when I had more hair than this that I keep a brush with me because I take it off and that's pretty boys. I gotta make sure they all go on the same. And there's plenty of times I would have that in my Harley. You got two pockets on. I had a Road Glide. You got two pockets in the front. Your boy had a brush in one of his pockets, or at least a wave cap. I take off the helmet. I could put a wave cap on and still, in my mind, not look like a ruffian.
Nah, I hear you. And you know what? It's interesting. It's like when we think about Harleys and bikes or whatever, as I shared before you went, I was like, I don't have an ego around whatever. It's like, yeah. For a good 10 years, had this, the one car I've had that actually was fun to drive was, this convertible, as far as I'm going. You see this? Bop, bop, bop. I'm chicken to ride a motorcycle. Wow, bro. Nah, not gonna do it.
You know what, man? So I thought you stole one of these last, and I only got 3 questions left here.
Okay.
What is your favorite car of all time? If money was no constraint, something you pined after, like what is What is it?
Okay.
Your answer or lack of answer still helps us.
Okay, so see, I was gonna say the last car I had, which was a '91 Mercury Capri, book value $1,000. It looked like $1 million. People used to be like, "Is this a Ferrari?" No, this is the car I bought on Craigslist for $500. But anyway, but when he said money is no object,
yeah,
it would be the car that I designed.
I'm sorry, you designed a car?
No, I haven't. It would be.
Oh, it would be.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I like
if
it.
was no object, I would design my own car.
Brother, you really are unique. And he wasn't lying when he said, "I make my jewelry, and if I'm gonna rock it, I'm gonna block it. I'm gonna push it together." I like
it. It's not even going to be fancy, whatever. But yes, like it would have, But my its symbol is like, I call it a yart. It's my own little crest. It's like a yin yang heart with. I'm not into zodiac, but it has like an Aquarius sign and cross spears for African heritage. So it's like a little symbol. I actually have some medallions. I was gonna put one in the headpiece. I never got to do that. But yes. So if money was no object, I would design my own car.
And that's why I asked that question, is to find out, like, what's your flavor. See, we learned.
Yeah. I don't want something that. Put it like this. This brother, one of the brothers from '84. I remember he used to have like an IROC, Camaro, whatever. And he was complaining about, women he was running into or wanting this. And I was like, bro, you driving a gold digger maggot. What do you think? What do you expect? And so, when there's certain things that, they're popular or prestige, don't want none of it. Yeah. No. Close to, like when I DJ, folks used to think I looked like different entertainers, depending on who you were or who you were familiar with. I literally made sure that I bought things that were not like what they wore, because I've always wanted to be myself and do my own thing. The challenge was that most folks weren't aware of so many different varieties, so they immediately categorize you as what's familiar to them. But I used to shop at places like the Antique Boutique and stuff, and consignment stores and stuff like that. And I still have, actually, in my closet, some leather jackets and coats that I decorated. Like, I've got like a red leather jacket that I put studs across the collar and wrists, and I have my same symbol in black and white leather on the back.
That's legit.
On the fraternity side, right? I'll send you pictures of some paraphernalia that I made. Right, I hand cut iron-on felt wear, like I, back in the day when you used to use the Playboy bunny, one of my most elaborate shirt, right, has, and I still have it, right. It basically has a car that, interestingly enough, reminds me of the last car I had. This brother, and I think he's leaning up against it. I don't know if the female bunny character was in it too. And it has like a little ribbon, Theta Iota Chapter, like MIT Harvard Tufts. On the back, it's like diamonds and data cross, and it was all cut out iron-on felt.
Wow.
Right? Yeah, these really elaborate designs. I really love creating things and unique things. Yeah.
You took me back to People Every Day by Arrested Development. What did Preach said that he said, I was a target because I'm a fashion misfit, and the outfit that I'm wearing, brothers dissing it. But at the end of the day, I think that is the brother. Like, that is, you can't be more hardcore than a brother that wants to walk his own walk and be unique versus following the trend and being a lemming. And I done alienated some of my listeners now, but individuality. I can respect that.
And to me, it's not even about being hardcore, but that's where I believe we can all find our joy, and just being comfortable in your own skin without worrying about being this way for this person or living up to someone else's standards and whatever. So to me, it's just the most natural stress-free way to be. Is just to do your own thing and try and find people who are okay with that.
That's it.
If you try to find people, if you mess with people who aren't okay with it, it's a lose-lose. Yeah. Whether it's family, friends, frat, partners, find your tribe. How many folks do you really need to be close to you?
Well, if you ask Caesar, you don't need a lot next to you because you're stabbed in the back from the ones that are closest to you. But then I got two left. What music? I didn't know we were going to get into the DJ. Maybe I knew that, forgot it, didn't know it. But now I'm so glad this is one of the questions I like to ask. What you rocking? What you listening to right now, Ken Granderson? Like if you're getting in the car right now, driving down to New York.
You know what? Sorry, you're not. This is going to be a sad sort of answer. As much as I enjoy DJing and taking people's records and blending them together to create something new, it ruined my ability to appreciate most music, because music for me became a very functional sort of thing. There's music to get people to dance.
Yes.
And and different audiences had different sort of things, like the mainstream R&B, that was more the mating ritual, where the house music folks was just pure enjoyment of the music sort of thing. The slow music was, to try to help folks get on. And so, so I do not, I spend most of my time creating software things.
Yeah.
My downtime, a lot of it will be like, oh, let me watch some movie that finally made it to Netflix or whatever.
Yeah.
When I was in Boston and had the car, would drive, I would drive. I had music. I actually used to use flash drive, flash card, SD card.
Yes.
And most of what I played though was neo soul and two artists. One is very well known, the other isn't. And even the well-known one is not the well-known stuff. Michelle Indigo Cello.
Oh yeah, I'm aware. Yeah,
you're aware. Okay. And then the other would be Prince.
Yeah.
I've got a collection of about 3,000 Prince songs and videos from the 80s. Into the mid 10s. He was one of the folks that people used to think I looked like. Depending on who they were, because my naturally curly hair, I wore it long and stuff. But in many ways, he was sort of like my creative muse in terms of representing someone who lived life by his own rules.
Yes.
Did what he wanted to do, whether you liked it or not, don't care. And so he was, and weird. He's one of those people. If he wasn't a genius musician, he might have been homeless.
Yeah.
So I respect, resonate. So Michelle Indigo Cello was another person who, some of her music I love, some of it I ain't too crazy on, but it's that creativity, the uniqueness, and she's whatever it's authenticity. It's the authenticity.
Yes.
I don't have to like the music as much. If I feel that authenticity, I can enjoy it in many cases. While I don't go out and find certain things, there will be things that strike me here and there for whatever reason. This song, the cover of The Sound of Silence by this heavy metal group Disturbed. I remember this is like years ago, where I used to love it, and I don't know why. It was creative, it was artistic, it was paying homage to a song. It's the authenticity. It's the authenticity. That's what it comes down to. I can listen in small doses, to genres that I just really can't relate to, but it's like you showed up here. You are really, you're the real deal.
On the way out, I'd like to know, before I ask the final question, how can people follow, stay in contact, see what you're working on in any social media? You did give us a website earlier. How can we stay in contact with you, Ken?
Well, yeah. I try to keep KenGranderson.com up to date. It's about 6 months out of date. I say to people, I've done so many things that have showed up. If you Google me, you'll find something. I'm actually really easy to. I got my phone number and on the website. I'm easy to find on Facebook, LinkedIn. You have very different experiences on Facebook and LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Yeah. With Facebook, it will be only for the folks with strong constitutions, let's say.
Yes.
Whereas LinkedIn, I'm just going to be generally talking about entrepreneurship or or black facts, and I'm going to start putting out more about the civic engagement sort of stuff. Those are the best ways.
And then lastly here, I believe in 6 degrees of separation, Ken. And I'd like to know who's the most interesting person in your life and what will you do to help me get them on this podcast? And I'll give you the chance if you need it. Look like you were ready to jump in.
I don't need any time.
Awesome.
Yeah. The most interesting person I know right now is my friend Hassan Mia, who he's older than me. I found out about him from a group called the Black 10K Project. Sisters who trying to get 10,000 black folks to invest $100 in a fund to, in theory, can fund a black business for $1 million, right?
Yeah.
So good people. Oh, you know what, Tawana, he's probably someone I can connect you with her just as an aside. Because what he's doing is so important, and could be I believe one of the potential solutions to things, because I'm a total, I don't even want to say skeptic. I believe that the whole venture thing is a massive boondoggle. Like, no one gets venture money. And even if they did, you'll never see them in the neighborhood again. So it's not helping us. But So remind me about Tawana Rivers of Black 10K Project. But he was doing, this is a couple of years ago, doing this NFT project called Masterminds of Hip Hop with Russell Simmons. And he and his wife have been in the crypto world since like 2017 or whatever. Last year, he's connected with folks way up there in the Bitcoin mining industry. And so when one of the brothers I made back in '84, who's out in Detroit, was instrumental in helping him get a long-term, inexpensive electricity contract. Yeah. Hassan realized one Friday that his investor, who had like 500 Bitcoin mining machines, because they got kicked out of China in 2021, and wanted to set them up, he was like, I don't have anyone to set these up. Ken, can you go out to Detroit for a couple of months and help me set up Bitcoin mining farms? Didn't know anything about Bitcoin mining farms, but Hassan's a really interesting guy because he was an early MP3 innovator. He had Zing was the name of the company that he sold to Real Networks, that they got incorporated into the Real Player. He's done some really interesting things, things that I'm not at liberty to speak about right now, that could be really interesting. But you'll see like a few things like he bought a fintech startup to try to help jumpstart black and brown banking. Really interesting guy, very serious about trying to find ways to help improve economic situations in his hometown is Detroit, which growing up in New York in the hood or whatever, I told him, I was like, yo, Hassan, the poverty here is worse than anything I've ever saw. Man, it was like, whoa. I've been there. Yeah. And where we set things up was not in the good neighborhoods. Yeah. And I'm like, factory buildings. I'm locking the thing up at night. And they're waiting for Yo, it was a very interesting experience. But he's very interesting person, man.
Oh, that's what I want. Interesting conversation is what I want interesting conversation is what I got. Listeners, this has been Ken Granderson. I know for you guys to have listened in, I know you enjoyed it, and I'm ashamed to tell you that we are at the end of this episode with him. I'll leave that door open. Ken, we got to get you back. I already have at least 4 or 5 other things here that we didn't even get into.
It's all good. It's all good. Sure. Let's do another one. I'm always around. Maybe during Black History Month, that's our biggest month. With Black Facts. I don't know exactly what the nature of it is going to be, but last year we put Black History on the streets of New York in these kiosks where these Link NYC kiosks. We had our Black Facts of the Day up there. We're doing something with them again this year. We're not meeting with them for another week. I don't know why they waited so late, but whatever. And we did a Juneteenth promotion. So there's always in stuff going on.
Great. And that's what I do. I hope I get in, I get the good conversation, and I get out, which also allows me to have an additional meeting with them. But this has been episode 73. Ken Granderson, and
thank you.
That's facts.
Thank you, Donato.
Thank you. Have a great rest of the evening.
Okay, you too, brother.
We'll see.
Yo.
Yo.